Working for the tourism industry has let me meet many more countries, meet nice people, and to keep learning other cultures, which allows me to have a more balanced view of the world with less stereotypes. However, I must confess, although I have friends all over the globe, Turkey, Portugal, Spain, Costa Rica, the US, well, of course, the United States, many of them, I know very little about my neighbors, what they do, if they have kids, even what their family name is. We get the time to meet people all over the world, but we don't have the time to meet our neighbors. And this is what's happening to us in the tourism industry between the United States and Mexico. We don't get to know each other as we should. Many tour companies, many CBBs, many hoteliers, many airlines, car rentals, amusement parks, cruises, all are very busy. We are all very busy trying to meet emerging markets, which are often very far away from the United States, that you don't have the time to get to know your southern neighbor, Mexico. Of course, there's nothing wrong with seeking new markets around the world, but many tourist companies or CBBs have spent a lot of money to realize that the miraculous boom expected to attract tourism from the Far or Middle East is more theoretical than practical. Of course, there are companies and executives in the United States who know very well the Mexican market, but our experience tells us this is a minority compared to the vast spectrum of companies who know very little about Mexico. And my intention is not to criticize. On the contrary, what I want to transmit to you is that you have the offer of products and services in the United States, is how important it is to know the potential of the Mexican market. I can assure you that if instead of going to China, looking to bring that tourism to the United States, you had gone to Mexico, you would have found them more easily. Knowing my neighbor, so my neighbor knows me. The Mexican tourism market is a reality for many US destinations. If you ask Las Vegas, for example, how important the Mexican market is, they're going to say very much. But there are other destinations which surprisingly know very little of the Mexican market and therefore have benefited very little. Mexico is a country where people work more hours, with an average of 2,225.7 hours in 2012. Stereotype 2, the Mexican economy is poor. Facts, and I don't want to bore you with facts, but Mexico is your second closest neighbor. Trade between both countries reached $500 million. Mexico, after Canada, is the country that buys more to the United States, representing $217 billion. This amount is equivalent, and please take this as important information. This amount is equivalent to what the European Union as a whole buys to the United States. Near double to China and 5 times more than Brazil. Brazil is booming, but I mean, we buy 43 billion more than Brazil. Mexico is, along with Brazil and Argentina, the only Latin American member of the so-called G20, which, by the way, parentheses, my husband represents Mexico, which includes the 20 largest economic countries in the world, and along with Germany and Great Britain, Mexico is the most open country that promotes free commerce and has 12 free trade agreements with 44 countries. 1 million people and more than 350,000 cars cross the border daily to the United States. In 2012, Mexico was at number 14 in the world in GDP, almost 3 times more than Argentina, and above nations such as South Korea, Indonesia, Belgium, Norway, Switzerland, and Sweden. Mexico is the 3rd largest exporter of America, only after the United States and Canada, and above Brazil and Argentina.
Do they spend the same amount in a year?
Who?
Mexico and the European Union?
Mexico, after Canada, is a country that buys more to the United States, representing $217 billion. And this amount is equivalent to what the European Union as a whole buys to the United States. And nearly double to China, and 5 times more than Brazil. Mexico is a young country. It has an old culture, but it's a young country in the sense of the average age of the population, which is 27 years, where the US is 37 and China 34. So your future traveler is where you have to look at. We are more than 110 million people. I know we have a lot of poverty, but we do have a lot of richness. The richest man is in Mexico, the richest man of the world, Mr. Carlos Slim. Stereotype number 3. It's hard for a Mexican to get a visa for the United States. That's true. The U.S. Embassy in Mexico has done a great job to make the process faster for obtaining visas. Currently, about 70% of visa applications have successful results. Still, there is a lot to be done, and maybe you can make the change by participating through instances like Visit USA committees, airlines and hospitality associations. The conclusions are, it is worth knowing your neighbor. Find out what their last family name is. Consider the Mexican market as one that could travel a lot to the United States. Take advantage of the great potential of the Mexican market. We have all the major US and Mexican carriers flying not only from the main feeding cities, but growing in secondary markets like León, for instance. And end of the day, it's about great relations to make great business. So learn about Mexico, read about Mexico and Mexicans, and you'll be successful.